Wealth and fame typically go hand in hand, but every once in a while a celebrity winds up in enough financial distress that the only option is to declare bankruptcy. Sometimes this is the result of a too lavish lifestyle, other times the result of neglecting to pay taxes, or in the case of an iconic rock star, a legal gambit to gain freedom from an unfair recording contract. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Here are 10 celebs who declared bankruptcy and the alleged reasons why. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more similar content. Let's dive in. 1. Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker brought a trove of quote-worthy lines to the Rush Hour franchise while kicking some serious booty next to Jackie Chan, and the films were a serious payday. Tucker made $3 million off the first and $20 million from Rush Hour 2, according to Variety. That's just one franchise. Tucker has more than 20 acting credits listed on IMDb, so his career should have been quite profitable. And it probably would have been if he kept up on his yearly taxes. Forbes says Tucker piled up back taxes for over 7 years, causing some major financial problems. Those issues weren't helped by Tucker falling out of the spotlight either, seeing as he hasn't starred in a leading role since Rush Hour 3. The total debt was over $14 million, and the IRS meant to collect. 2 separate liens were placed on the actor by 2014, one for $2.5 million and another for $12 million. In 2011, Tucker faced foreclosure of his home, a $6 million mansion in Florida that the actor still owed over $4 million on, according to CBS. 2. Kim Basinger. On the dubious advice of some family members, actress Kim Basinger bought an entire Georgia town, nearly 1,700 acres, paying $20 million with a plan of turning the place into a tourist attraction by building a movie studio and hosting a film festival. Those plans never came to fruition when Basinger later ran into some financial difficulties, forcing her to sell off big chunks of the place. She later admitted in an interview that nothing good came out of it, with the entire experience reportedly causing a rift with her family. Then came the 1993 film Boxing Helena, which Basinger agreed to do, but then backed out after realizing how creepy it was. The movie studio took her to court and won, with Basinger ordered to pay a judgment of $8.1 million. This led Basinger to file for bankruptcy. She subsequently appealed the decision to a higher court, which ruled in her favor, and she later settled with the studio for $3.8 million. This was all before she went through her nasty divorce with Alec Baldwin. 3. LENA HEADEY. LENA HEADEY was a retired shadow hunter in the Mortal Instruments City of Bones, queen of both the warring world of Westeros and of Sparta, and Sarah Connor of Terminator, The Sarah Connor Chronicles, and back in 2013, she was apparently broke. LENA HEADEY and Peter Lawfren divorced in December 2013, but during the struggle, HEADEY had fallen on hard financial times. According to Forbes, she just sold her house and had lost a couple $100,000 on the sale. HEADEY claimed in court documents that she needed $6,000 of the couple's 2011 tax refund to cover living expenses since she had less than $5,000 in the bank, according to TMZ. In 2013, Sci-Fi Wire claimed HEADEY was getting paid $150,000 per episode of Game of Thrones. Before taking Cersei, HEADEY had worked on several TV shows and movies and should have secured herself a hefty nest egg. Even with legal fees from the divorce, HEADEY shouldn't have needed to live off credit, as her court documents state. According to the law offices of Paul H. Nathan, legal documents claim that the couple worked through their savings during HEADEY's pregnancy because she wasn't able to work. They had no choice but to live off credit cards, piling on debt that they'd have to cover when HEADEY was back on the screen. You know what they say, a Lannister always pays his debts. 4. Larry King. The late Larry King is now regarded as a legendary broadcaster. But his early days in the business were far from glamorous, especially that time in 1971 when he was arrested and charged with grand larceny after ripping off $5,000 from his then business partner. Although the charges were dropped, the whole thing made him toxic to employers, and a 4-year stretch without work left him with a $350,000 debt that led him to declare bankruptcy in 1978. However, later that same year, he was offered a late-night radio gig in Washington, D.C., which eventually morphed into his wildly successful CNN show, placing his days of financial difficulties behind him. 5. Nicolas Cage. By 2018, CNBC estimates that his wealth had fallen to 1/6 of its peak, and he had to pay the IRS $6 million in 2012. How? Well, Cage is a big spender, as he is an earner. At one point, Cage owned 15 houses, some of which cost more than his biggest payday. Two of his homes were legit European castles. To go along with this real estate empire, he brought himself a private island and a pyramid burial chamber. His other totally normal eccentric rich guy purchases include shrunken pygmy heads, exotic animals, comic books, and the late Shah of Iran's personal Lamborghini. Not to mention the time Cage outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for a T-Rex skull, which he later returned after discovering it had been stolen from Mongolia, according to the BBC. 6. Gary Coleman. As one of the TV's most popular stars, child actor Gary Coleman reportedly earned a hefty $64,000 per week for playing Arnold. What you talking about, Willis? Jackson on hit sitcom Different Strokes. And the show ended and the cute child actor became an adult. The lucrative acting roles dried up. Assuming he had millions in the bank, Coleman was shocked when he took a look at his financial statements and saw he was broke. Wondering where all the money went, he ultimately sued his adoptive parents, whom he accused of squandering his TV fortune. That protracted and expensive legal battle, coupled with his ongoing medical issues involving kidney dysfunction, combined to drain what was left of his bank account. He filed for bankruptcy in 1999, listing debt of more than $70,000. "I can't spread that blame all the way around," Coleman said in an interview. "From me to accountants to my adoptive parents to agents to lawyers and back to me again." Coleman passed away in 2010 after suffering a fall. 7. Wesley Snipes. He brought the leather-clad vampire hunter Blade to life in the late 90s and early 2000s, sparking a successful franchise. But Snipes may have been celebrating his fame and fortune a little too much to realize that he owed the pesky IRS some tax money. In 2006, he and a couple of financial advisors were charged with several tax-related offenses, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S. 2 years later. He was ultimately convicted for failing to file tax returns and sentenced to 3 years in prison. Today, Snipes is out and is getting back on track after his time in the slammer. 8. SINBAD. Like Tony Braxton, comedian SINBAD has 2 bankruptcies under his belt. The first one in 2009 came about from a massive tax debt. The second time, in 2013, SINBAD filed for bankruptcy due to business expenses, paying out of pocket to keep his private company afloat and salaries paid, all in hopes that he'd land a lucrative movie deal that would refill his coffers. "I spent money and I kept thinking, I get one more movie and I'll wipe these bills out. But the movie never came," he told HuffPost. "That Black Bride, I said, man, I'm going to hang in there. I'm going to pay these bills. So you owe $1 million. I can pay that. Okay, fines, fees, now you have $2.5 million. But I didn't do nothing. Now you owe $4 million. At the time of his second bankruptcy, SINBAD was reportedly in the hole for $10 million, $8 million of which resulted from unpaid taxes from the years of 1998 to 2006. 9. Mike Tyson. In his heyday, the most feared boxer to ever step into the ring, Mike Tyson earned more than $400 million during his boxing career. Iron Mike was also known for his extravagant lifestyles, shelling out big bucks on jewelry, mansions, sports cars, parties, even Siberian tigers he kept as pets. When he declared bankruptcy in 2003, Tyson listed his debts in excess of $27 million, of which nearly $18 million came from unpaid taxes. Other debts included $600,000 in legal fees and $50,000 in unpaid child support. 10. Janice Dickinson. At one time, making $2,000 a day as the self-proclaimed first supermodel, the outspoken Dickinson has attached her name to several reality TV projects with varying rates of success. Despite the fact that she seems to constantly be working, Dickinson reportedly filed for bankruptcy in 2013 over $1 million in debt. Reports also claim that a chunk of that money was owed to a plastic surgeon and an anti-aging clinic. Unfortunately, Dickinson's pursuit of eternal youth and apparently poor financial planning were a bad combination. That was all from us today for this video, folks. See you in the next one.